Okay guys, you've probably seen the title to this video and you're probably thinking it's going to be about the Samsung Note 8 phone that's just been released. But in this video we're going to take a journey back in time 4 years ago to the original Samsung Galaxy Note 8. Now if you want to leave this video at this point, once you realise it's not about the phone, you can do, but this is going to be a trip down memory lane and just seeing where Samsung's gone with its versions and skins of Android, and also how the Note series, back at the time it's probably the Note 2 in phablet form, but the Note 8 came out, the 8 denoting the size of the screen on this particular model. So we'll quickly go through a retro unboxing. I've had this for some time, it's been put away for a while, but recently I've got it out and started playing with it again. So it's usually put away with my boxes of other stuff that I bought over the years that I've got to a stage where they're not really worth selling, so they're worth probably keeping out of nostalgia. Anyway, without further ado, we'll take the top off the box, and you can see you're greeted in the box by Samsung Galaxy Note 8, S Pen S Note 8, WXGA LCD screen before OLED was popular, 1.6 quad-core CPU with multi-window, Wi-Fi, DivX, GPS, Bluetooth and Android technology. Now, if we look around the box at the specifications on the box, if there's anything written on, we don't get a great deal of detail apart from being Wi-Fi and 16 gigahertz, which was 16 gig space, I should say. Was pretty much standard back in the day, especially with it having a SD card as well. But on the back of the box, a bit more detail on the back. You can see it says quad-core processor again. It tells you the screen's LCD. It tells you it's got 2 gig of RAM, which, to be honest, for that time was quite a lot of RAM. It was probably Samsung up in its game with this particular tablet. Now, Samsung at the same time also made another tablet, the Samsung Galaxy Tab 8. It was virtually the same, except the innards obviously were totally different processor and different amounts of RAM, etc. So you had an infrared remote on it, pretty similar to what they had until recently, till the S6 when they got rid of it. 5 megapixel shooter on the back, 1.3 megapixel on the front, 4,600 milliamp hour battery, GPS and the Russian GLONASS system on there. So all in all, a pretty powerful tablet for its time. Looking at the receipt inside the box, you can see I've never used the headphones or whatever, the headphone jack. The original price to buy it was €401, so you're going back 4 years ago. It was quite a price when you consider now you can buy the 2017 iPad for $379, I think it is, in Spain where I am. Anyway, what we'll do, we'll make like we're unboxing this and go down memory lane. So you had the typical peel off on the front and the peel off on the back, and typical Samsung build at that time, pretty plasticky, faux metal around the outsides, S Pen on the bottom that fitted into its silo, normal micro SD connection on the bottom, twin stereo speakers, which was unusual at the time, gave a great sound out of it. On one side you had the micro SD slot, on the top the headphone jack, camera on the back and front facing camera on the front. And we'll boot this Note 8 GT N5110 back up into life. And I actually have been playing with this recently. It's for its age, it's very snappy and runs really well. Boot up time significantly faster than the latest Nexus devices running Marshmallow, and there's supposed to be a significant improvement with Nugget, but I haven't tried that yet. So I'll keep an eye out for that on my other tablet. One thing I wanted to point out is, to be honest, this is a far better tablet than my Nexus 9, which is absolutely a total piece of rubbish actually. Probably the worst tablet that Nexus ever made, and probably put a lot of people off Android in general, I would think. Anyway, there we are, we're booted into the home screen. Quite a snappy system. You can see I'm running a Nexus launcher on it. It's not the standard Samsung UI. You can tell that if we go into the app drawer, and you can see the apps that are running on it. We'll go back out again, we'll go back over to the side, and you can see it's very snappy. It scrolls quite quick. The old interface is really usable. One interesting thing to note on the original Note 8, no pun intended there, is if you bring in from the side screen, you've got the side access bar for multitasking and split screen. This was something Samsung brought out way back. I think it came out on the Note 3 if I remember right. It certainly came out on this one 4 years ago. But one thing to note is that the latest Note 8 has been hyped up for having a feature whereby you can pull in from the side, and you've got ready tabs for split screen, 2 items made ready for you. Now if you look on it's a bit slow pulling out because I've got the Nexus launcher and it wants to go to another screen. If I go to pull out again, go to a split screen, you can see straight away I've got a tab that brings up a split screen. I've got no Wi-Fi connection at the moment, it's not connected. So we duck out of that again and we'll go back to the home screen and we pull in from the side. I have to do it slowly. You can see we've got another one there, My Notes and S Note. And so this thing that Samsung are touting on their new Note series being a really good feature, and everyone's raving about it in the press at the moment. All the reviewers are saying, oh, it's a really handy thing to have. To be honest, it's been around for a long time. Samsung took the feature off, I think, on the Note 5 and did away with it, so you couldn't make a ready-made split application window to pop up from the side of your phone. So there it is. 4 years ago, it was alive and well and running on the early Note devices. Like I say, the problem with the early devices before Samsung moved over to the S6, which most Android fans were begging for, high quality build similar to what the iPhone had. They wanted something similar to iPhone build but running Android. And you can see from this device has never been dropped, and I'll try and get in fairly close. I don't know if you can see there's a crack there around the faux metal plastic around the side. There's another one on the corner there. There's an airline crack on the bottom there. There's another one on this corner here near the S Pen. There's another one halfway up the side, another one between the volume rocker and the power button, and a really bad one on top. They are a problem that Samsung had with the early devices, certainly from the S3 and the S4, where the ring around the screen was so tight that if you got variations in temperature, it would expand and contract, and you get these expansion cracks appearing around the edge of the screen. Samsung took a few phones back initially and then stopped doing it, and it became a bit of a bugbear for people who are using Samsung devices. What I wanted to say and touch on briefly, I just mentioned earlier on that the Nexus 9 device I've got is really slow. It throttles after 5 or 10 minutes, and it's a nightmare to use. To be honest, I should have chucked it long ago, but it's like all the other devices I get. They usually get stuck in a drawer, not used. My main tablet at the moment, I'm using the 2017 iPad 12.9 Pro, using the beta version of iOS 11, and it's absolutely stunning. As tablets go, it's light years ahead of anything you can do on an iPhone. They've gone in separate directions, and to my mind, it's the tablet to use. I think, to be honest, Android has lost its way with Android tablets to a certain extent. Anyway, what I was also going to say is that with this device having 2 gigs of RAM, it's still quite usable 4 years after its inception. I've been using it lately, the last week or so. It's been put away for a long time, but I have pulled it out and started using it purely out of curiosity, really. The S Pen functions are nowhere near as good as what you have on the newer S Pen devices. You've still got the stylus on the end, you've got the button on the side. So if you press on the button and you double tap on the screen, you get S Note pops up, and you can just start writing on the screen whatever you want. And it's fairly accurate. There's no palm rejection on the early Notes, so they tended to be pretty hit and miss if you were trying to rest your palm on the screen. Palm rejection on the new device is absolutely superb. Another thing you could do, you could use the lasso mode, so if you got something that you wanted to keep or send to someone, you could press the lasso mode, you could lasso something on the screen. Let's try that again, make sure you get all the way around. You would then get a pop-up at the bottom of the screen, scrapbook, S Note, email, chat on, so you could pretty much share it any way you wanted. So some of the innovations that Apple have come up with the iPad Pro already existed a long time ago, and it tends to be that Apple just make things that previously were invented or were shown work a lot better, and that tends to be the case. Sad as it may be, it's something that is. Longevity wise, what I would say, if you're going to buy any sort of Android device, I use both different platforms. I use Apple, iOS, I use the Mac, Windows, and I also use Android. And as a daily driver, I tend to use an Android device if I'm out and about. The weekends when I don't want to be mired, I use an iOS device. Longevity wise, if you buy an iron device, this was an iron device at its time when it was first new, 400 and odd euros. It was quite expensive, and the proof of the pudding is that 4 years on, it's still usable. Now, the reason behind that is fundamentally down to the fact that after so long, Samsung refused to take their devices past a certain amount of updates. Now, in some ways, that's a bad thing for some people because they want the latest and greatest, but in other ways, it's really good because it keeps your device running at an optimal stage where it will run at. And if we pull down from the top, you can see the old UI is very cartoonish compared to Samsung's latest iteration of Touch. Well, it's not TouchWiz anymore, the Samsung experience. But if we go into the settings, you can see how cartoonish everything was. It was really, really strange sort of interface, and people hated this TouchWiz interface. If I go about device, you can see we've got about devices Android 4.4.2. So with the new version of Android that's just come out and been released, Android 8, we're actually a full 4 versions behind on this. That said, I've got various things on here. I've got TV. I've been using it to Chromecast to an outside TV that we've got near our pool. And it's faultless. The YouTube, all the apps on there work as same as they do on my other devices. And longevity wise, if you buy a device that's got an high-end processor, you should get 3 years use out of it, no problem. In 3 years time, if you buy the latest and greatest, the latest Samsung S8 or S8 Plus, in 3 years time the medium range Android phones will be at that level, so you'll still have a usable device. So all in all, big improvements from Samsung over the years. They finally got their act together build quality wise. I still would say that Samsung have the best iteration of Android on their devices, and they make it work as seamlessly and as well as they can. The biggest bugbear between Android and iOS for me is purely the applications. The applications on iOS are far superior, far smoother, far nicer. But then again, you've got the options on Android to pretty much customize and do things that are sandboxed on iOS. So it's horses for courses. You take what you need to do. For me, work-wise now, if I use my iPad Pro, I can do anything that I can do on my laptop with a new file system that's in iOS 11. This is a bit of a trip down memory lane. It's not a Note 8 phone, as you may have thought it was in the title, but it just shows you that you buy something with a high-end processor and all the right bits inside it, that 3 years down the line you'll still get a usable tablet or a usable phone that will still do what you want. Certainly if you've got a phone 2 or 3 years old and you want to jump on the newer phones, the S8 and the S8 Plus, I would say the way to go. I think the new Note 8 is too big, it's too long, it's way overpriced, and I think the extra 200 odd euros, dollars for an S Pen and an extra camera on the back that basically copies what Apple have already done is a bit rich, to be honest. So I would advise anyone to go for the S8 Plus rather than the Note, unless you've obviously got a real reason to use the S Pen. Anyway, a bit of a trip down memory lane and a bit of a waffle. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. Leave some comments. Tell me where you are on your upgrade cycle, what you're thinking of getting.